Good morning, brothers and sisters. So today I'd like to talk about best practices and mindset to become the best version of myself. So first, let's see a definition of best practices and mindsets. So according to Wikipedia, the best practice is a method or technique that has been generally accepted as superior to any alternatives because it produces results that are superior to those achieved by other means or because it has become standard way of doing things. And a mindset is a set of assumptions, methods, or notions held by one or more people or groups of people. Mindset can also be seen as arising out of a person's worldview or philosophy of life. And the example of best practices and mindset. And so I'm working for Microsoft, and I'm supporting the Microsoft product and services. And what I do is, so customer come to us and they have some troubles of their services or their product. And most of them it's because they use the product or service not according to the design or best practices. So the products and services are designed to work well by certain way of usage. So using the product and services by the designed usage bring the best result. So so most of case, what I do is explain the customer of the product or services. These services or product are designed to certain way of usage, and the best practices is this way, and that's the way to solve their problems. So, and using the services and products by the unsupported way often causes troubles. And the customer has some mindset, and some customer has take for granted of their product or services, and they think that they services and products should work for the way they want. And that's the one mindset. And the other mindset, and the customer appreciate the product or services, and they want to learn how those products or services work well, and how the product is designed, and which mindset is easier to adopt best practices. That's the mindset too. And I'm working with mostly engineering side of people, so their mindset is mostly mindset too. So because they know the product, the technology, so they know they need to know the best practices, and they want to study. But in some case, the like management class people come, then they don't know the technology or the product, and they think that those things should work as they expect. So in that case, it's very difficult. And the reason why I mentioned this example is that this can be apply to our life too. So we human beings created certain way. God created the universe, including human beings, with certain design. So there are best practices of life to be best version of me. And what's the best practices for our life? This is from True Father's word. Living for the sake of others is the best universal principle that defines the way we should live our lives, the law of the true way of life. So this is the best practices of our life. And I think there are two kinds of mindset to view life. So one is to take for granted, take for our lives granted. And some think this is my life. So I have rights to do whatever I want on my life. And mindset two is to appreciate and study what is my life for, and make effort to be a better person. And my life came from God through our ancestors. And my life is not just for myself. So which mindset is easier to adopt the best practices of life God designed?
Second one.
Yeah, second one. But in this secular world, which mindset is majority?
First one.
First one is the majority. The people think this is my life. I can do whatever I want on my life. And I want to share my story, how the mindset helped me to deal with difficult times in my life. So I learned the mindset from our church, our Two Parents Word and Divine Principle. And so I learned my life is not just for myself. I came from God. I came from God through my ancestors. That's the mindset I learned. And that helped me deal with my difficult times in my life. Especially after I joined church, I go through some difficulties. You know, I joined the club, and when I joined the club, I was told by club center members, you didn't go through difficulties before joining the church, so you may go through difficulties. You will have many difficulties, and you know that was true. I went through many difficulties. Like I think that many of first generation members went through many difficulties, and so we go through many rejections, and especially rejections from like parents or loved ones, and so that's the very difficult thing. And I also go through those rejections and especially from parents, and so you know my parents didn't like I joined the club, and as you know our church image is very bad in Japan, and my parents heard the rumor of the club and our church from the people, and when they knew I joined the club, that they were shocked, and they were not happy, and I made some effort to explain, and me and my mom, one time we went to workshop to learn our movement, but none of them worked. I sent her some our church booklet, monthly booklet, and none of them worked. But fortunately, my parents are not happy, but they didn't oppose the severely. Like for some members was like kidnapped, or those cases, many cases in Japan. But fortunately, my parents didn't oppose me so much. That's I appreciate them, and especially for my mom. One time my father didn't like what I'm doing, so he was trying to stop the monthly allowance for my college. He wanted to stop it, but my mom didn't stop it. He kept sending me the monthly allowance for my daily life expenses, and but you know, when it's reaching to the graduation of the college, and so my parents expected me to find a good job, as the many parents expect me, but I chose not to find a job, and I chose to go the way church wanted me to go through. So that made me made my parents so upset. Especially my father was so upset, and he told me not come back to home, and so after graduation, I went home when father was not home, but when father was at home, I couldn't go back to home, and so yeah, kind of, I was chased out from home. I was no way to go back, and so that was very difficult for me, but still I made effort, and so when I graduated from CAP, at that time, two father asked all CAP graduates to come to America and go to UTS or Bridgeport. That was at that time the two fathers' direction, and so I was working to go to UTS, and so I went to Carp Center in Osaka. I was graduated from Hokkaido University, but for preparation to go to UTS, we need to make fund. We need to make the money to pay tuition. So at that time, there was option to go to some certain Carp Center to stay there and do part-time job or anything to make the money to go to UTS or Bridgeport. So I chose the Osaka because it's close to my hometown, and so I stayed the Carp Center in Osaka University, and I did the part-time job to make the money to go to UTS, and since it's in Osaka, so it's near my mom's workplace. I visited her at the lunchtime, but at that time, still I couldn't go back home since my father is still upset, and then just before I'm going to UTS, and when I met my mom, she said that my father is telling I can go back home, since I was near their home. So finally I could go back home, and I talked to him, and he told me the reason why he was so upset was that he saw my mom was crying because I'm going the way they expect. So yes, so that's why he was so upset to see that my mom was very sad. My mom was crying, and so when I heard that, I felt that my father's upset was not just for himself, and because he sees my mom, and so I felt it's finally I made one step forward. And he, when I go to UTS, my father drove me to the train station to go to airport, and I didn't expect that became the last time I saw him. And I came back, I went to the UTS, and it's full time, and so it was near, and I was UTS, and it was near my mom's birthday, and I heard for my mom's birthday, and I heard my mom is going to Hawaii. I think it's the for her birthday or something. Maybe my father sent her to the Hawaii, but at that time I felt something strange, and I was playing. I am feeling something strange, and something happened. Was I felt, and after that I got a phone call from my mom, and I heard my father passed away. So yeah, so really that time at the train station, that was the last time I saw him, and that was very difficult time for me. Just I felt something is going forward, and I was expecting that there's the way to have some reconciliation and some chance to give them explain why I joined the church, or at least I wanted to make them understand, and suddenly I lost my father, and it was very difficult, and what that difficult moment, what helped me to overcome that difficult moment was, so it's not, my life is not for myself, and I'm representing all of my ancestors, and so I need to stand strong, and I need to move on for my ancestors, and that's helped to cope with that difficult moment, and yes, and later on, the champion, as you know, champion Providence started, and there was the Providence to liberate ancestors and give the blessing to ancestors, and so the way to give blessing was opened for our ancestors, and it was so that's anyway, that's the God gave me the way to at least give the blessing to my father later on. So the mindset help you to cope with difficult moments. Really, this mindset helped me to overcome the difficult moment. Okay, and the lastly, I'd like to give the young people, the youth, for the best practices and mindset for youth. So God gave the best practices to teenage Adam and Eve. You must not eat from the tree of knowledge of God, good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die. Genesis chapter 2:17. So this best practices, so this is the best practices God gave to Adam and Eve. And until to further explain what this commandment means, nobody knows what this commandment, what this best practice means. And to further clearly explain, this means to keep purity before God bless their marriage. So this is the best practices for young people. And I found a nice quote. I think this is Mother Teresa's quote. To be pure, to maintain pure, can only come at a price. The price of knowing God and loving Him enough to do His will. He will always give us the strength we need to keep purity as something as beautiful for Him. And so I would like to give some mindset for this best practice, the keeping purity. Keeping purity is not easy thing, especially we are living in a secular world. Keeping purity is uphill battle. So this is from True Parents' World, the mindset to help to keep purity. The reason of being called woman was created was to become the spouse of man, Adam. If there were no Adam, then a woman like Eve would not have been necessary. Why was Adam created? Adam was created because a man was necessary for Eve. Human beings, man and woman, are not created to live for the sake of others, but to live for the sake of their counterparts. And the owner of the sexual organs were interchanged. Man's treasure is not owned by him. It is owned by the woman, and her treasure belongs to him. In short, ownership has been exchanged. The woman does not own her sexual organ. She needs to know that it belongs to her man. It is not hers. The same is true for the man. You are only to take care of your sexual organ. Thinking that your sexual organ belongs to you is a sin. So this mindset will help you to keep purity. Your sexual organs is not belong to you. Your sexual organ belongs to your future spouse. So you cannot use your sexual organ for yourself. It's for your future spouse. This mindset will help you to keep purity. The conclusion, the best practices, live for the sake of others. Keep purity before blessing and fidelity to spouse after blessing. And mindsets we should have is, my life came from God through my ancestors. My life is not just for myself. I was born to live for the sake of my future counterpart. My sexual organ belongs to my counterpart or future counterpart. And sexual desire should be used to make my counterpart or future counterpart happy and create a God-centered family. So these best practices and mindset will guide you, especially for young people. Even if you don't understand God, or two parents. This best practices and mindset, you should have this. This best practices and mindset will help you to navigate your life and cope with your difficulties and reach your goal and help you to become the best version of yourself. Thank you so much. And I'd like to, hey, please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Parent, thank you for this moment to share my experience, how to cope with my difficulties with two parents' word, two parents' teaching. We are so blessed for two parents to give us clear guidance, best practices, mindset to help us to become the best version of ourselves. In this secular world, it is so difficult to navigate ourselves, to become best version of ourselves. But Heavenly Parent, two parents teaching is the way for us to navigate. So Heavenly Parent, especially our next generation, second generation, to learn two parents' word, two parents' teaching, and navigate their life and reach the best version of themselves. Thank you, Heavenly Parent. I'd like to report everything in the name of Hidetsugu and Teresa Sada, Blessed Center family, Adieu.
Adieu.